What's up YouTube, it's your boy StanZZ here, and welcome back to a brand new Pokemon deck profile here on the channel, guys. And today, we are going to be covering another, edition from the Ultra Prism set coming from Pokemon, of course. The set already dropped, and I've been covering a bunch of different decks, or at least archetypes that came out from the set. And today, we're going to be taking a look at Glaceon GX. So, without further ado, we're going to get started. As always, with the past few Pokemon videos, I will be giving away 3 code cards at the very end of the video. Make sure you guys stick around for that, and shout out to Angel for making sure that those codes go out to you guys. But, yeah, let's get straight into the deck. So, like I mentioned, Glaceon GX is pretty much the main focus, I guess you can say, of the deck. It has the ability Freezing Gaze. As long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent's GX and EX in play in their hand and in their discard pile have no abilities. Except, of course, for Freezing Gaze. Then it has the attack Frost Bullet for 1 water and a double colorless. This attack does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, with 90 damage being done to the active Pokemon. Does not apply weakness and resistance for the bench Pokemon. And you guys may be wondering, well, isn't that always the case? There are actual cards that do apply the weakness and resistance and stuff like that. So, hence the reason why that's actually mentioned in the attack text as well. Now, this Pokemon also has the Polar Spear GX. 1 water, a double colorless. It does 50 times. This attack does 50 damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, this synergizes really well with the Frost Bullet attack. You can start, chipping away at something big that they may have up in their bench. And once that comes up to the active, Polar Spear will be in the range to knock out that Pokemon. Of course, in just like any other GX, you can only use 1 GX per game. Now, Glaceon GX is weak against Metal, and oddly enough, in Ultra Prism, a bunch of Metal support cards came out. So, I haven't just seen Glaceon played that much, just because of the fear of Steel running around. It has a 2 retreat cost. And of course, to get to Glaceon GX, we also run Eevee from Sun and Moon base with the Energy Evolution ability. When you attach a basic energy card from your hand to this Pokemon, search your deck for a Pokemon that evolves from the same type, and of course evolve it. So of course we will be playing Water Energy in this deck so that we can get into Glaceon as soon as possible. Now, it does have the quick draw attack. You flip a coin, if heads, draw a card. To be honest, almost never going to be using this attack. If you don't get a Glaceon up in your active, Eevee more than likely will never be in your active, so we don't really have to look into that. Now, of course, we are playing Glaceon GX with Zoroark GX. Zoroark GX has probably been the biggest card in the recent formats it's going to be in the format for a very, very long time. So without further ado, we're going to take a look at Zoroark GX. Has the ability Trade. Once during your turn, you may discard a card from your hand, and if you do, you draw 2 cards. Then it has Righteous Beating 20 times for a double colorless. This attack does 20 damage for each of your Pokemon in play, so that includes all your bench Pokemon with, of course, your active. And then it has Trickster GX. Not going to go into it just because we do not play any Dark Energy in this deck. It is weak to Fighting type, and it resists Psychic type, and has a 2 retreat cost. To get to Zoroark, we're going to be playing 4 copies of Zora. To be honest, never going to be attacking with Zora, and more often than not, you will have a Zoroark or a Glaceon in play turn 2 to make sure that you have a active attacker on board, so you don't have to worry about attacking with a small guys. Then we play 2 copies of Tapu Lele GX for the Wonder Tag ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench, you search your deck for a supporter, add it into your hand. It does have Energy Drive 20 times for double colorless. This attack does 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. But that's going to be it for our Pokemon lineup there. We are going to primarily focus on Glaceon being our active Pokemon more often than not, chipping away damage and stalling your opponent's GX and EX abilities. And then Zoroark is going to be playing our support role, where we'll be consistently getting the cards we need from our deck into our hand, along with cleaning up some shots on your opponent's Pokemon when the time comes. Now, for supporters, we're going to start off with for Cynthia. You shuffle your hand into your deck, then you draw 6 cards. It is your shuffle draw supporter, and it is your preferred one as well. Not the only one though, because we do play 3 copies of N. Each player shuffles his or her hand into his or her deck, draws the amount of cards they have remaining based on their prize cards that are remaining. And then we also play 3 copies of Guzma. You switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active, and if you do the same thing on your side of the board as well. And then 2 copies of Bridget. Search your deck for 1 basic EX Pokemon or 3 basic Pokemon that are not EX and put them onto your bench, which this is great because Eevees and Zoras are going to be your primary focus on getting onto your bench as soon as possible, so we don't need to search for any EXs or anything else. These are going to be your primary focus. Bridget, of course, I say this in almost all the videos I've done so far for Pokemon, it's going to be your ideal turn 1 support play. Of course, we also play 2 copies of Ace Roll. You put one of your Pokemon that has any damage counters on it and all cards attached to it into your hand. Now, this card is actually really key. More often than not, your opponent cannot one-shot your Pokemon. Now, there are times where it is possible if, of course, you're playing something that you're at a disadvantage of. So something like Steel one-shotting my Glaceons, or something like Fighting one-shotting my Zoroarks. But the thing is, if you're playing something that, you know, it's kind of like a neutral battle, something like Golisopod, where it may not get the knockout, you can go ahead and bring whatever's damaged on your board back into your hand. And then you start setting up all over again. It slows your opponent down because they are no longer in that position to two-shot your Pokemon. Then we play 4 copies of Ultra Ball. You discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, you search your deck for a Pokemon and put it into your hand. This is going to be really great to search out key components of what you need. Tapu Lele for turn 1 Bridget, or Zoroark to start setting up your trade ability engine in the deck. Then we play 4 copies of Aqua Patch. Now this, I've seen many different deck profiles cover Glaceon Zoroark, and it's a bit weird how I see some people only play like 2 copies of Aqua Patch. I believe if you play 2 copies of Aqua Patch, at that point you might as well just not play any at all. Now you attach 1 water energy from your discard to your bench Pokemon. You're going to be like, well, why do I have water energy in the discard? Shouldn't it be on my Pokemon? The thing is, you can synergize this really well and combine it really well with Zoroark. You may discard the water energy with Zoroark's trade ability and then use Aqua Patch to attach it to one of your bench Glaceon. So Aqua Patch makes sure that that energy, not only you do not waste your energy attachment for turn, but you also make sure that that energy actually does not go wasted. Then we play 2 copies of Field Blower. Garb is another card that's been in the format for quite some time that actually does a lot of damage towards us. We don't want Garb to just shut down our abilities, not only our Freezing Gaze ability, but also our trade ability. So Field Blower is going to be good for that aspect as well. There are other things that may cause us to use the Field Blower if your opponent has something like a Fighting Fury Belt, or something like a Parallel City that kind of just messes with you. Field Blower will get rid of problematic cards that way as well. If you guys aren't familiar with what Field Blower does, it chooses up to 2 in any combination of Pokemon tools or stadiums in play and discard them. Then we play 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher. 2 different abilities you can choose from. You put a Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand, or you shuffle 3 Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck. So it just depends on the situation you're in. Maybe you have a Zoroark that you discarded early in the game in your discard pile, and you have a Zoroark needing to evolve. You can go ahead and grab a Zoroark and stuff like that. So it really depends on the situation that you are put in. 3 copies of Choice Band. The attack of this Pokemon this card is attached to does 30 damage more to GX and EX Pokemon. So this puts the pressure a lot more on your opponent's side, along with making sure that Glaceon's Frost Bullet attack actually does 120, putting a lot of GX Pokemon in the 2-shot range. Doing 90, you know, it's great, but doing 120 just scares the living daylight out of your opponent, which is great. Even better, it's so much better. 2 copies of Floatstone. The Pokemon this card is attached to has no retreat cost, so maybe your Glaceon's taking too much damage up front, and it's time to switch up for a Zoroark to start taking out the remaining Pokemon your opponent has. Or maybe your opponent Guzmas up something that doesn't need to be in the active, so Floatstone will be good on that aspect as well. Now, leading into our energy cards, we play 9 copies of Water Energy, and then 4 copies of Double Colorless. Now, a lot of people will be like, why do you play 9 copies of Water Energy? Not only do you want to see these energies as soon as possible so you can get the energy evolution off turn 1, but you also don't mind seeing them later in game when Zoroark's trade ability is going off in all cylinders. You can go ahead and trade away an energy just so you get 2 cards, Aqua Patch that energy. So 9 copies of the Water Energy is good in my personal opinion here. Of course, a Double Colorless is pretty much used in every single one of these every one of the attackers in this deck. Glaceon, Zoroark, and Tapu Lele all benefit from Double Colorless as well. But that's going to be it for today's deck profile, guys. I may sound a little less enthusiastic. I just want to explain the deck a little bit more. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, get a little bit of an idea of the deck. Of course, take the deck as a grain of salt type of thing. This is just a skeleton for you guys to take a look at, fix, change, do whatever you guys want with this. Of course, guys, let me know down in the comment section below how you guys decided to change this deck up. That's going to be it for today's video. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, guys. Of course, you know, wait just a little bit, because then, you know, I give away for the 3 codes. It's going to be coming up. That's all for you guys there. That's going to be it. I'll see you guys later. Peace!